So I just wrapped up my workout outside. I love working out outside. You know, just fresh air, sunlight, get the vitamin D. Vitamin D is actually not really a vitamin, it's more of a hormone. You know, it's really important for operating a lot of systems in your body. You know, testosterone, digestion, even something like melatonin, you know, when you try to go to sleep at night. But as I was working out today, I was doing a HIIT program, a HIIT routine, and the whole time I was doing this, I'm just thinking about, God, man, like, how nice it is that I can just move my own body the way I want to. I could work out for 2 hours out here in the sunshine, you know, lifting pretty moderate weight, going at a pretty hard intensity, keeping my heart rate up over 130 beats per minute for, you know, the entire time almost. And, you know, the reason why that was so on my mind is because it's actually one of the tenets of the book I wrote, The 5 Critical Elements of a Healthy Individual. And one of those tenets is health independence. And I think one of the things that we're really struggling with in this society, if you can't see it already with how they're poisoning the food, how the drugs they give you only make you sicker, creating more symptoms that they then need to give you another drug for to treat that symptom, right? I'm not telling you anything you don't know. Actually, today, I'll post a picture of it. While I was working out, I'm just watching as these planes were flying overhead, and I'm literally watching them seed the clouds. I watch them turn it on and turn it off. Straight rows, not normal flight pattern. But anyway, I digress. What had me thinking so much about health independence, right, which is one of the core tenets of the book that I write, and it's something that I've subscribed to for 20 years of my life, is because that's the first thing they're going to try to take from you. Once they make you unhealthy, then they can start taking away everything else, because why? You're not going to fight back. And there's a whole bunch of reasons for that, right? Once you're physically deconditioned, and your body's already breaking down because you don't exercise and move, your mind goes right with it. And there's a lot of evidence for that. So I like to do a lot of HIIT training, right? High intensity interval training. And one of the reasons for that is because it's hard. I enjoy that. Getting your circulation level up over an extended period of time does a bunch of interesting things to the body physiologically. And one of the things that I find really interesting, and you know, shout out to Dr. Rhonda Patrick. You might want to check her episodes out where she talks about this. But your body produces a chemical called lactate. And what lactate is a byproduct of the ATP cycle. So adenosine triphosphate, which is your initial movement energy system for any movement in your body. Just writing with a pencil, moving your muscle, moving your arm like this, even talking, right? ATP is the cycle that originally, or is the original source of energy for those types of things. After the ATP is broken down into ADP, adenosine diphosphate, and one of those phosphate molecules is snapped off, one of the byproducts is this lactate. Well, what's interesting about the lactate is it can get through the blood-brain barrier, and your brain, now your brain makes up approximately 2% of your body mass, but uses about 20% of your body's energy. That's pretty astounding, right? So try to make a connection there as to how this correlates with the breakdown of your health physically. What it does is your brain switches over from primarily using sugar or carbohydrates as energy, and it can start to actually use this lactate. And what lactate does is creates a situation where your brain is going to create more neurotropic brain-derived serum, right? And what these neurotropics do is help with the regeneration and healing of neurological components. So the neuron, the axon, the myelin sheath that coats it, and so on and so forth. And one of the things that I find interesting about the lactate is when I exercise like this, it lasts for several hours. In other words, I almost feel like I'm high, right? I would equate it to being sort of like the runner's high. When you train like this for that long, you know, really it starts to, you can feel it for a long time. And it also has a lot of pain relief that comes with it. Oxytocin is produced from high exercise and endorphins and so on. But as it relates to your health independence to me is the idea that you have the sovereignty to decide what goes into your body, when and why. And you get to decide how your body is used. And you get to decide what you use your body for. But the problem is, as you break down and you become reliant on the medical system, not just for drugs, but for devices and technologies and things like that are going to help you just move, they get to dictate how and where you move. And one of the things that really had me thinking about this was yesterday when I went grocery shopping after work. This woman came in, she was obese, and her son was with her, and he was obese. I would actually say he was more overweight. So this kid was probably 11 years old, probably weighed about 150 pounds. And he runs into the store, right? He runs. This is an important part of the story. He runs and he jumps on one of those scooters that are used for people with disabilities. Now, to me, there's two problems, maybe three problems with this whole scenario. Number one, that kid, and I get it, it's fun to ride on, but that kid was unwilling to exert himself to walk around a shopping or a supermarket for maybe in half an hour. Number two, he took that device from somebody who actually will probably need it. And number three, he obviously needs the extra movement in his life. And his mother just laughed and giggled and helped him get on and start this machine. And it was clear, yes, he's overweight, but he was in no way, shape, or form in need of that machine. What do we see there? What you see there is an example of both a mother who's reinforcing these types of norms that they're trying to push on us, these degenerate norms, but an actual willingness to give up and give in to this. And I can't say I was mad about it. I wasn't mad, but it just broke my heart. I mean, here I am at almost 50 years old. Absolutely would not give up my ability to move my body and to be at the level of health I'm in. I've never had a cold, never had the flu, never had COVID, never had an infection. Well, one minor infection in a back tooth recently, a gum infection. But outside of that, I had chicken pox when I was 6, and I had foot and mouth disease when I was in like 9th grade. Other than that, I have never been sick. And a lot of that is because of the way I eat and the way I train. And what you have to understand is that is a good way to mitigate a lot of what's already happening to you. I mean, all the plastics, the xenoestrogens that are in our food, the phthalates, the weed and herbicide chemicals and pesticide chemicals, glyphosate that they're putting in. Man, you're up against it. And especially for you men, there's a reason why the show's called the Emancipation Show. You know, I really want to try to provide you guys with things that you find interesting or ways to connect with other men who, you know, to start building and getting our freedom back. We're not free anymore. You know, with all those chemicals I just talked about, you're already against it because your testosterone level drops. So let's get back to the HIIT training and lactate and all that stuff. Exercise and even competition has been shown to increase a man's testosterone productivity by 30 times. When they measure groups of men, like in South America, I believe it was in Brazil, they took a tribe who loved to play soccer, and they checked their blood serum testosterone levels before and after. And what they found was all the men across the board who were competing against each other showed anywhere from 25 to 30 times the increase in production of testosterone. And the guys who won or scored a goal actually had higher. So when I watched that little boy jump on that scooter yesterday, as a person who was a teacher for over 20 years and watched this happen in my classroom, and it's one of the reasons, not the only reason obviously, but one of the reasons why I just had to leave, I just couldn't watch it anymore. You know, I got my personal training certification and my diet and nutrition coaching certification, and you know, it's a struggle to find anybody who even wants to do these things anymore. But I think it's real important that you understand that physical activity is really important, especially high intensity exercise, to keeping your freedom. And one of the things that's also interesting about high intensity levels of training is it actually increases the amount of vascularity that you have in your body. In other words, you actually grow more veins and arteries that extend to your tissues to pump blood to those areas. So let's think about just aging in general, right? The more blood, the more nutrition, and the more healing factors that you can get to joints, soft tissues, intermediate tissues like cartilage and tendons and connective tissues, bone, you're going to maintain a certain quality of health for a longer period of time. Just your skin alone, getting out and getting vitamin D, increasing the collagen in your system so that your skin stays, young and healthy looking. And not to mention, high intensity exercise actually increases the amount of connections that you have in your brain. There are plenty of studies that show that there is a strong connection between executive functioning and physical activity, right? So executive functioning is the processes in your brain that allow you to do recall, learn new things, organize things, read and write and retain information from those things, as well as critical thinking. In terms of higher level thinking, it's the stepping stone to get to some of those other aspects of it, but also to maintain it. And as soon as you start to decondition your body, that already starts to fall apart. I see so many, it's men and women. And ladies, it's no shade against you, but I hear the things that the society says about men today. I hear the things that they say about you, and sometimes I look and I go, they're not wrong. But in a lot of ways they are. The hope of this channel is you take what I have to say and use it, or you don't. It's, I'm not here to proselytize you or anything like that. I'm looking to find more people like me because it's getting harder and harder these days, but also to give you the tools that you need to get there. So I'll end this video. I'll actually cut together with a little motivational clip the workout that I did. It was about 2 hours and 5 minutes long. I hope you enjoy the content that I made for you today, and I hope you understand where I'm coming from with this. Health independence is going to be the thing, the crux of how we rebuild our freedom back. You need to be able to move. You need to not be dependent on these companies, not for their technology, not for their drugs, not for their devices, none of it. You don't need any of that stuff to become healthy. Fitness is fucking free. I mean, shit, it's free. Healthy eating. The food itself is not free, although it can be, but the programming is free. It's frustrating when I talk to potential clients who I know I can't work with. Why? Not because they're not good people, not because they're not people that want to make the change. They just won't. And it's frustrating. And I still want to help. But anyway, sit and ponder on that. Health independence and why that's so goddamn important. It is the center point of what they're trying to attack. It is the foundation for which you will build everything else. And I can go into the data on so many other things, and I will when I do future videos. But this one, man, I want to see people be independent in their bodies and their health and be able to move, man. It's hard to watch when I see people who just can't move anymore. Especially people that are half my age. Like I said, I'm almost 50. And I move better than most 25-year-old men these days. Emancipate yourself. Emancipate yourself. Get out there and move, people. Fitness is free. You take it or leave it. Have a good one, guys.